On an ordinary Sunday morning in East Los Angeles, in a cramped apartment on the edge of the city, a 7-year-old boy looked at his mother and said something that would change their lives forever. "Mom, I am Ayrton Senna, and I can prove it." What began as a child's outrageous claim quickly transformed into an impossible journey, filled with details no child should know, memories that transcend time, and evidence that defies all logic. This is the story of how a small boy convinced an entire family, and perhaps the world, that some souls simply cannot rest. Could it be possible that the soul of one of racing's greatest legends has returned in a small, fragile body, carrying memories of a life that ended before this boy was even born? This is Reincarnation Chronicles, where we investigate documented past life cases with real evidence. Like and subscribe if you want more. Let's begin. The morning sun filtered through the faded curtains of the small apartment in East Los Angeles when Rosa Martinez heard her youngest son Diego talking to himself in the bedroom. At 32 years old, a single mother of 2 boys, she was used to the games and imaginary conversations of her youngest. But that March morning in 2023, something sounded different. No, that's not how you take the turn," murmured Diego, just 7 years old, moving a yellow plastic car across the cold floor. "You have to feel the car. You have to talk to it." Rosa paused in the doorway, watching. The boy spoke with an unusual seriousness for his age, as if explaining something critically important to someone invisible. His brown eyes, always expressive, had a strange gleam, almost melancholic. "Diego, who are you talking to?" she asked, entering the tiny room he shared with his older brother, Luis. The boy looked up, and for an instant, Rosa felt an inexplicable chill. It was like staring at an adult disguised in a child's body. "I'm teaching someone how to drive," Diego answered naturally. "It's hard, you know." When you're inside the car, it's different. The sound of the engine, the smell of gasoline, the vibration, all of it speaks to you. Rosa frowned. Diego had never shown any particular interest in cars, much less racing. In fact, they could barely pay the bills, let alone afford cable television or Formula One-related toys. "Are you pretending to be a race car driver?" she asked, sitting on the narrow bed. Diego looked at her with disturbing intensity. "I'm not pretending, Mom. I was a driver. I am Ayrton." The name echoed in the air like silent thunder. Rosa felt her heart race, but forced a smile. "Ayrton? What Ayrton, baby?" "Ayrton Senna," Diego responded, as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. "And I can prove it." In the days that followed, Diego's behavior became increasingly puzzling. He started drawing circuits with surprising precision, curves and straights that, when Rosa researched on her neighbor's borrowed phone, turned out to be nearly perfect reproductions of famous Formula One tracks. Interlagos, Monaco, Silverstone. Names the boy pronounced with frightening familiarity. "Mom, did you know that in Monaco, rain makes the track really dangerous?" Diego said one afternoon while meticulously drawing what appeared to be the Principality's street circuit. "Once, in 1984, I almost won my first race there, but they stopped it early." Rosa dropped the spoon she was holding. "How do you know that, Diego?" The boy stopped drawing and looked at her with those eyes that seemed to carry decades of experience. "I remember, Mom. I remember everything." It was impossible. Diego was born in 2016, 22 years after Ayrton Senna's death. How could a 7-year-old child, raised in East LA, without internet access or books about motorsports, know such specific details about the driver's career? Rosa decided to test her son. She borrowed the neighbor's phone again and showed him random photos of Formula One cars without identification.
Diego, do you recognize any of these cars?
The boy analyzed the images carefully. When he came to a photo of a yellow and red McLaren, his eyes lit up. "That's my car," he said, touching the screen reverently. "McLaren MP4/4. The best car I ever drove, 1988. It was a perfect year." Rosa discreetly verified. It was exactly the car Ayrton Senna had driven in 1988, the year he won his first world championship. Information a 7-year-old should never possess. "And this one?" She showed him a photo of a blue car. Diego grimaced. "Williams, I don't really like them. They didn't take good care of me." The veiled reference to the fatal accident of 1994 sent a chill down Rosa's spine. Diego was talking about Senna's death as if it were his own death, with a mixture of sadness and resignation that was deeply disturbing coming from a child. That night, after Diego fell asleep, Rosa called her sister Carmen, a nurse who worked at County Hospital. "Carmen, I need to talk to you about Diego," she said, her voice trembling.
He's saying things, impossible things. What kind of things? Carmen asked worriedly. He says he's Ayrton Senna, and it's not make-believe, Car. He knows things a child shouldn't know. Specific details, dates, names. It's like he actually lived that life.
There was silence on the other end of the line. "Rosa, kids have vivid imaginations. Maybe he heard something on TV or..."
"Carmen, we barely have a TV, and when we do, we only watch kids' shows. He's never been exposed to anything related to Formula One. You have to come here and see for yourself."
The conversation was interrupted by the sound of Diego screaming in his room. Rosa ran to him and found her son sitting up in bed, sweating and trembling.
"Diego, what happened? Nightmare?"
The boy stared at her with tears in his eyes.
"Mom, I dreamed about Tamburello again. The curve where it all ended. The car didn't respond, and I..."
He couldn't finish the sentence. He just threw himself into his mother's arms, sobbing as if carrying the weight of a tragedy he'd experienced firsthand. Rosa held him, feeling her own tears fall. How do you explain to a 7-year-old child that he couldn't have dreamed of his own death in a previous life? How do you make a boy understand that reincarnation wasn't something people like them should believe in? But as the days passed and details accumulated, it became increasingly difficult to ignore the possibility that something inexplicable was happening in her home. The following week, Carmen finally managed to visit her sister. She arrived on Saturday afternoon, expecting to find a fanciful child and an overly worried mother. What she saw left her completely disconcerted. Diego was sitting on the living room floor, drawing with worn, colored pencils. These weren't typical children's scribbles. They were detailed, technical diagrams of what appeared to be a car engine, with each part meticulously positioned and labeled in surprisingly organized handwriting for a 7-year-old. "Hi, Aunt Carmen," Diego greeted without looking up from his drawing. "I'm trying to remember how the MP4 engine worked. It had a very special turbo, you know? Honda made the best engines back then." Carmen exchanged an alarmed look with Rosa. "Diego, where did you learn about car engines?" The boy finally looked up, and Carmen felt the same chill her sister had described. There was something in this child's eyes that didn't belong there. "I didn't learn it, Auntie. I know it. It's different." Diego returned to his drawing. "Ron Dennis always said that details made the difference. He was the McLaren boss.
very demanding, but he respected people who raced for real. Carmen knelt beside her nephew. As a nurse, she'd studied basic psychology and knew that children could develop elaborate personalities as defense mechanisms or attention-seeking behavior. But this was different. Diego wasn't performing. He was simply being. "Diego, tell me something. What's it like to drive a Formula One car?" she asked, deciding to test the limits of this knowledge. The boy's eyes lit up, and he dropped his pencil. "It's like taming a dragon," he said with unexpected poetry. "The car wants to run, wants to fly, but you need to teach it where to go. Your hands shake on the steering wheel when you're going 180 miles per hour, and your heart beats so fast you think it'll explode. But when you find the right rhythm, when you and the car become one thing, there's no feeling like it in the world." Carmen felt a lump in her throat. The description was visceral, loaded with emotion and experience that transcended anything a child could imagine. "And fear?" she asked. "Did you feel fear?" Diego went quiet for a moment, looking at his own small hands. "Always. Every driver who says they don't feel fear is lying. But fear keeps you alive. It makes you respect the speed." He paused, and his voice dropped lower. "Until one day, fear isn't enough." The reference to the Imola accident was unmistakable. Carmen needed to stand and walk to the window to hide the tears that involuntarily welled up. "Rosa," she whispered to her sister, "this isn't normal." That same afternoon, Diego did something that left both women even more disturbed. He was watching some television program when a bank commercial appeared, using the theme song from Ayrton Senna's TV show from the 1990s. Diego not only recognized the music instantly, but began humming along, tears streaming down his face. "Why are you crying, baby?" Rosa asked, sitting beside her son. "That song. They always played that song when they talked about me on TV," Diego said, wiping his eyes with the back of his hand. "After the accident, they played it a lot. It was like they were saying goodbye." Rosa and Carmen looked at each other. How could Diego know about the media coverage after Senna's death? How could he have such an intense emotional reaction to a song that should be just another commercial jingle to him? The following Monday, Carmen took Diego to the hospital where she worked, under the pretext of a routine checkup, but she actually wanted a psychiatrist colleague to take a look at the boy. Dr. Marcus Rivera was an experienced professional, specialized in personality disorders and atypical cases in children. When Carmen told him the story, he appeared skeptical, but agreed to talk informally with Diego. "Hello, Diego. I'm Dr. Rivera. Your aunt told me you really like cars," the doctor said, settling into the chair across from the boy. "I like to drive," Diego corrected. "Or I used to. It's hard now because my body is too small." Dr. Rivera jotted something in his notebook. "And how did you learn to drive?" "I started very young. My father had a repair shop in Sao Paulo, and I was there since I was little, messing with cars." Diego spoke naturally, as if recalling his own childhood. "Then I went to England to learn more. Frank Williams gave me my first chance in Formula One." The doctor stopped writing. The biography Diego was telling was exactly Ayrton Senna's. From his father Milton da Silva's workshop to the beginning of his career with the Williams team. "Diego, can you tell me about your family?" Dr. Rivera asked, changing strategy. "I have a sister, Viviane, and a brother, Leonardo. My mother's name is Neide, and my father is Milton.
They live in a big house in Santana, but I really like the farm in Tatuí. There I can ride carts and fish in the lake." Every detail was correct. Dr. Rivera knew Senna's family history well. He'd been a motorsports fan for decades. But how could a child from East Los Angeles, without access to detailed information, know even about the family's private farm in Tatuí? "Diego, tell me about May 1st, 1994, the doctor said, deciding to make the definitive test. The boy's face immediately closed. His small hands began to tremble, and he shrank in his chair. "I don't want to talk about that day," he murmured. "Does it still
Hurt? Why does it hurt, Diego?" The boy looked up, and Dr. Rivera saw there a deep, ancient pain that didn't fit in a 7-year-old body. "Because that's when everything ended. When I had to leave everyone I loved. And the curve, the damn Tamburello curve. The car was so hard to control, so nervous. I knew something was wrong, but I had to race anyway." Diego started crying, not like a tantruming child, but like someone carrying the weight of personal tragedy. "I just wanted to win at home, for the Brazilian people. They deserved to see the flag waving high." Once again, Dr. Rivera felt a chill run down his spine. Diego was describing not just the facts of the accident, but the feelings and motivations of Ayrton Senna in the final moments of his life. Details that not even the most complete biographies contained. When they left the office, Dr. Rivera was visibly shaken. Carmen had never seen her colleague, normally so controlled and analytical, with that expression of complete bewilderment. "Carmen, in 20 years of practice, I've never seen anything like this," he admitted, leaning against the corridor wall. "That boy isn't fantasizing or reproducing information he learned somewhere. He's remembering as if he lived those moments." In the following days, news about Diego spread discreetly through medical and academic circles. Dr. Rivera, despite his professional skepticism, couldn't stop thinking about the case. He decided to do something he'd never imagined. He contacted researchers specializing in reincarnation cases. That's how, 3 weeks later, an elegant, middle-aged woman appeared at Rosa Martinez's door. Dr. Eleanor Walsh was a retired psychiatrist who dedicated the last 15 years of her career to documenting cases similar to Diego's. "Mrs. Martinez, I know this may seem strange, but I would very much like to speak with your son," she said with a gentle smile. "Dr. Rivera told me about the case, and I believe I can help you understand what's happening." Rosa, who'd spent sleepless nights trying to process the situation, accepted immediately. She was desperate for answers, for anything that made sense of what her life had become. Diego received Dr. Walsh with the same naturalness he received any visitor. He showed no surprise or discomfort. It was as if he knew this meeting was inevitable. "You came because of the other times too?" he said, looking directly into the doctor's eyes. "There's always someone who needs to understand how it works." Dr. Walsh felt a chill down her spine. "Other times?" "When I came back before. Once I was a boy in Germany, then a girl in Japan. I always remember who I was before, until the body grows and the memories start fading." Diego spoke with disconcerting maturity. "This time is different. The memories are stronger, clearer." The psychiatrist opened her briefcase and removed several old photographs. They were images of Ayrton Senna at different moments in his career. Some very well known, others rare, from personal archives. Diego, can you tell me what's happening in these photos? The boy examined the images calmly. In the first, Senna was wearing his McLaren uniform, holding a trophy. That was Monaco, 1990. I'd just won there for the second time. I was so happy, because Monaco was always my favorite race. It's like driving on a jewel. Everything sparkles, and you need to be perfect on every turn. In the second photo, Senna appeared in serious conversation with a man in a suit. Ah, that's Jean Tot. We were talking about the possibility of me going to Ferrari. It was 1993, and I knew I needed to leave McLaren. The car wasn't competitive anymore. Dr. Walsh checked her notes. The photograph had been taken during a private meeting between Senna and Tot in 1993, which only became public years after the driver's death. How do you know about that conversation, Diego? Because I was there. Jean wanted to convince me to sign with Ferrari for 1994, but in the end, I went to Williams. Maybe if I'd chosen Ferrari. Diego stopped, lost in painful thoughts. The third photo showed young Senna, about 4 years old, next to a small cart. Diego smiled at the image. That's me at Dad's karting track. I was 4, and he said if I could do a complete lap without crashing, I could keep racing. I did 3 laps in a row. He laughed, a sound mixing childish nostalgia with adult longing. Dad was so proud, he cried. Dr. Walsh then showed a photo she was certain Diego wouldn't know, an intimate image of the Senna family, never published, that she'd obtained through personal contacts. This one? Diego looked at the photo and his face lit up. That's at my sister Viviane's birthday party. She turned 15 and Mom organized a beautiful party at the house in Santana. I'd come back from Europe especially to be there. He pointed to specific details in the image. See that cake? Mom insisted it be chocolate with strawberries because it was Vivi's favorite. And look at Leonardo in the back, making faces at the camera. He always did that. The description was perfect. Every detail, every person in the photo, every element of the environment. Diego knew everything as if he'd been there. But the most impactful moment came when Dr. Walsh showed the last photo. It was an image of Senna in the Williams cockpit moments before the start of the 1994 San Marino GP. His expression was tense, worried. Diego looked at the photo and his hands began to tremble. I didn't want to race that day. The car felt strange, hard to control. We'd had terrible accidents on Friday and Saturday. Rubens Barrichello almost died. And Roland. His voice failed. Roland Ratzenberger died in qualifying. He was a good guy, always kind to me. When I heard he'd died, I thought about not racing on Sunday. But too many people were depending on me. All of Brazil was watching. Diego stopped talking and looked directly at Dr. Walsh. I knew something bad was going to happen. I felt it in the air. You know how when you're in a forest and suddenly all the birds stop singing? That's how I felt that morning. The psychiatrist needed to work hard to maintain professional composure. In more than 50 cases she'd followed, she'd never seen anything so detailed, so emotionally authentic. Diego, why do you think you came back? Why are you here, in this body, in this family? The boy was thoughtful for a long moment. I think I still have things to do. When I died, I had many unfinished projects. I wanted to help underprivileged children. I wanted to do something for Brazil beyond just racing. Maybe this is my chance to finish what I started. That night, after Dr. Walsh left, Rosa found Diego in the backyard looking at the stars.
"Mom, do you believe me?" he asked without taking his eyes off the sky. Rosa knelt beside her son and hugged him. "I don't know if I completely understand, baby, but I know you're special, and I know I love you. It doesn't matter who you were before." Diego smiled and rested his head on his mother's shoulder. "Thank you. Sometimes it's hard being two people at the same time. The Diego you raised and the Ayrton I remember being." The following weeks brought a radical change to the Martinez family's life. Diego's story had leaked to some specialized motorsports journalism circles, and soon reporters began seeking out Rosa. That's how Michael Torres reached them, a veteran ABC sports journalist who'd covered Ayrton Senna's entire career. Michael was known for his skepticism and journalistic rigor, but also for his genuine passion for motorsports. "Mrs. Martinez, I know you must be tired of visitors, but I need to meet your son," he said, sitting in the small living room. "I covered Ayrton for 10 years. I knew every gesture, every expression. If Diego really is who he says he is, I'll know." Diego entered the room with his usual calm. He greeted Michael with a nod and sat in the chair across from the journalist. "You're Michael from ABC," Diego said, observing the man. "I remember you. You always asked intelligent questions at press conferences, not like some others who only wanted gossip." Michael felt a chill. Indeed, he'd had a respectful relationship with Senna during interviews, and the driver often greeted him by name at press conferences. "Diego, if you're really Ayrton, can you tell me about our last conversation before the accident?" Diego closed his eyes as if accessing a distant memory. "It was the Thursday before the race. You asked about my plans after the season. I said I was thinking about retiring, that I wanted to have children, start a family. You joked that the women of Brazil would be in mourning." The precision of the memory left Michael speechless. That conversation had happened privately after an official press conference and was never publicized. "And what else did I ask?" the journalist tested. "You wanted to know about my foundation. I told you I was planning vocational schools for underprivileged youth, that I wanted to give real opportunities, not just charity. You said you'd do a special feature about it after Imola." Michael needed to stand and walk to the window. Emotion was overtaking him. "Diego, that feature was never made. After the accident, I didn't have the courage." "Maybe now is the time," Diego said with wisdom that transcended his physical age. "The children still need help." That same day, Michael decided to do something risky for his career. He called Viviane Senna, the driver's sister and president of the Ayrton Senna Institute. "Viviane, I know this will sound crazy, but I need you to meet a child. He might be your brother." The silence on the other end lasted long seconds. "Michael, are you all right? What kind of story is this?" "I know how it sounds, but trust me. In 30 years of journalism, I've never asked for something like this. Just come see for yourself." A week later, a discreet convoy stopped in front of the Martinez family home. Viviane Senna had accepted the invitation, but brought 2 security guards and a lawyer, necessary precautions for someone in her position. When Diego saw Viviane step out of the car, something extraordinary happened. He ran toward her with pure, spontaneous joy, shouting, "Vivi! Vivi!" Viviane stood paralyzed. It had been decades since anyone called her by that intimate nickname used only by her brother in childhood. Diego stopped before her, looking at her face with tenderness. "You got even more beautiful, sis. But you still have that little wrinkle when you're worried, just like when we were little." Tears began streaming down Viviane's face. Diego was describing a detail only someone very close could notice. A small expression mark that appeared when she was tense. "How do you know that?" she asked, her voice choked. "Because I've known you since you were born. Remember when you had chickenpox and I stayed in your room reading stories until you fell asleep? Or when you broke your arm falling from the backyard tree and I carried you to the hospital?" Each memory was real, intimate, known only to the family. Diego wasn't reciting public facts. He was sharing affective memories. "Diego," Viviane said, kneeling to be at the boy's eye level. "If you're really my brother, tell me our secret, the one we promised never to tell anyone." Diego smiled, the same mischievous smile Viviane remembered from her teenage brother. "You were secretly dating the neighbor's son, Carlos. Dad and Mom didn't know, but I found out. You asked me not to tell, and in exchange, you gave me your allowance for 3 months. I used the money to buy parts for my cart." Viviane broke down in tears. The secret had remained buried for over 40 years. Not even in her brother's official biography had she mentioned that episode. "My God," she whispered. "How is this possible?" Diego wiped the tears from his sister's face with his small hands. "I don't know how, Vivi. I just know I'm here and that I missed you all these years." That afternoon, Viviane spent hours talking with Diego. She asked questions about the family, about specific childhood events, about dreams, and plans Ayrton had shared only with her. In each answer, Diego demonstrated not just factual knowledge, but the affection, intimacy, and small emotional details that only a brother could know. When it was time to leave, Viviane held Diego's hands in hers. "I don't know how to explain this to the world, to the family, to myself," she said. "But I know there's something true here, something that transcends any logical explanation." Diego looked at her with understanding. "I know it's hard to accept, but maybe you don't need to explain it to anyone right now. Maybe it's enough to know that somehow I came back to finish what we started together." After everyone left, Diego found Rosa in the kitchen preparing dinner. "Mom, weren't you sad when Viviane came? Weren't you afraid I'd leave with her?" Rosa stopped stirring the pot and looked at her son. "Diego, it doesn't matter who you were before or who you'll become. You're my son now, and nothing will change that." Diego hugged her tightly. "Thank you for letting me be both. The Diego you raised and the Ayrton I remember." Outside, the world was beginning to discover Diego Martinez's story. But inside that small house, a family was learning that love can transcend time, space, and even death. 2 months after Viviane's visit, an unexpected situation would put Diego's claims to the definitive test. The Interlagos circuit was hosting a commemorative event for the 30th anniversary of Ayrton Senna's death, and Michael Torres secured special authorization to take Diego there. It was a sunny morning when they arrived at the circuit. Diego had remained quiet during the entire journey, but when he saw the grandstands and the track, his eyes filled with tears. "It's even more beautiful than I remembered," he murmured, looking at the main straight. Carlos Reutemann, the legendary Argentine former driver and personal friend of Senna, was present at the event. When Michael told him about Diego, Carlos initially laughed at the story, but agreed to meet the boy, more out of curiosity than conviction. "Kid, if you're really Ayrton, can you tell me what our private joke was at races?" Diego looked at Carlos with affection. You always greeted me in Spanish before races, and I'd answer in Portuguese. You'd say, Buena suerte, campeón, and I'd respond, I'll need it against you, old wolf. Carlos went pale. That exchange of words had been a private ritual between them, never mentioned to anyone. And what did I teach you about Monaco's corners? That in Monaco, the track teaches you where you can make mistakes and where you can't. You said some corners forgive, others kill, and that I needed to learn the difference if I wanted to be truly great. The Argentine ex-driver fell silent for a long time, observing Diego intensely. My God, he finally whispered. How is this possible? At that moment, the circuit director approached the group. We have an interesting situation here. We brought the original Williams FW16 car, the same model Ayrton drove. It's configured for demonstration only. He looked at Diego. Would the boy like to see it up close? Diego nodded timidly. As they approached the car, something extraordinary happened. Even before getting close, Diego began pointing out specific technical details. That car has a rear grip problem. Active suspension was banned, so they had to compensate with a stiffer setup. But that makes the car unstable in high-speed corners. The chief mechanic accompanying the group stood there, mouth open. How can a 7-year-old know this? Diego approached the cockpit and ran his hands over the steering wheel as if reuniting with an old friend. In this car, I always felt like I was fighting the machine instead of dancing with it. It wasn't like the McLaren that responded to my thoughts. Then something unexpected happened. Diego looked at the adults around him and asked, Can I sit in the cockpit for just a moment? After some hesitation and several consultations, they allowed Diego to settle into the driver's seat. What happened next left everyone present speechless. Diego adjusted the rearview mirrors with precise automatic movements, tested the reach of the pedals with natural familiarity, and positioned his hands on the steering wheel exactly as Ayrton Senna used to, with his left hand slightly higher than his right. The pedal position is different, he commented without looking at anyone. Someone changed the adjustment. The brake pedal is about an inch higher than I left it. The veteran mechanic who'd worked with Senna checked the car's technical records. Diego was correct. After the driver's death, small adjustments had been made to the pedal positions for other demonstration drivers. How can he know this? The mechanic asked, visibly shaken. But the most impactful moment was still to come. Diego closed his eyes, gripped the steering wheel firmly, and began describing a lap around Interlagos with details. Impossible for a child who'd never driven a Formula One car. Coming out of the main straight, the braking point for the first turn is there, he pointed, where the shadow from the grandstand begins. Then comes the Senna S. You need to enter slow in the first part to exit fast from the second. At the cafe corner, the secret is to use all the track on exit because that gives you extra speed on the straight that follows. Every detail was technically perfect. Every reference was precisely where experienced drivers know they should be. Carlos Reutemann, who'd remained skeptical until that moment, approached the car with tears in his eyes. Ayrton, he said simply. Diego opened his eyes and smiled at his Argentine friend. Hello, Carlos. I missed you too. When Diego finally got out of the car, a crowd had formed around them. Circuit employees, journalists, retired drivers, all had witnessed something that defied any logical explanation. That night, back at the house in East LA, Diego was quieter than usual. Rosa found him sitting on the back steps, looking at the starry sky. How are you feeling, baby? Tired, he answered. It's hard carrying two lives at the same time. Sometimes I feel like I'm betraying you by remembering another mother, and other times I feel like I'm betraying my memory by being happy here. Rosa sat beside her son and hugged him. Diego, you're not betraying anyone. Maybe you're here exactly for this, to show that love has no limits, not even death. Diego rested his head on his mother's shoulder. I think I'm starting to understand why I came back. It wasn't just to finish unfinished projects. It was to learn that we can be more than one person at the same time. And that doesn't diminish who we are. It only makes us more complete. In the following weeks, Diego's story spread around the world. Skeptics and believers divided. Scientists offered theories, and the boy became the center of a global discussion about life, death, and reincarnation. But in his small house in East Los Angeles, Diego Martinez continued being simply a 7-year-old boy who liked playing in the backyard, helped his mother in the kitchen, and sometimes, when no one was looking, closed his eyes and remembered being the greatest driver Brazil ever had. The truth about Diego may never be fully understood or accepted by everyone. But for those who had the privilege of knowing him, one thing remained unquestionable. Whoever he is, he brought back something the world had lost. The reminder that some spirits are too great to be contained by a single life. And perhaps that's Diego Martinez's true message, that love, passion, and purpose can transcend any physical limitation, returning whenever the world most needs to be reminded of its own capacity for greatness. On quiet nights in East Los Angeles, when Diego sleeps in his small bed, Rosa sometimes hears a soft whisper coming from her son's room. Words in Portuguese mixed with sounds of distant engines, as if, even in dreams, two souls continue dancing together, learning that death is just a pause between movements of the same eternal symphony. And can you explain how a 7-year-old child knows secrets that remained buried for decades? The answers Diego offered defy everything we think we know about life and death. There are more inexplicable mysteries waiting for you, stories that will make you question reality itself. The truth may be closer than you imagine.